Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and today what we're going to be discussing is how the Miami Dolphins players, some of whom we are very familiar with, all seem to be getting better at a steady pace. It's a really weird sensation knowing that some of these players that we've been talking about over the past several years, for instance, Austin Jackson we talked about in a previous show. Recently we talked about Channing Tyndall and the fact that Navarro Bowman came and he was able to take Channing Tyndall under his wing and try to instruct him a little bit on getting better, and it looks like, according to reports, that he actually is. Now we're going to talk about the third player who's probably the least likely of them all to have gotten much improvement, and it's cornerback Noah Igbinoghene, guys. Can you believe that? I'll go ahead and explain in detail what I'm talking about here, because the reports that I'm hearing out of training camp come from Alfredo Arteaga and Jacob Michelle from the 3 Yards Per Carry crew and 5 Reasons Sports Network. Oh my gosh. I need to go ahead and express my thoughts in a way that at least semi makes sense. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix, the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at You Brake Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to You Brake Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, spell that out, F-I-V-E. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. So let me just break down this whole Noah Igbinoghene thing. So recent shows, I've talked about how Austin Jackson seems to be doing fairly well in training camp. Nothing spectacular, but he's actually been looking like a competent right tackle, which at this point in time, that's really all we need for this offense to function. We don't need an all-pro right tackle. We just need somebody who won't be the worst thing that we've ever seen. So basically, as long as we can avoid looking like Dallas Thomas or Jesse Davis at that position, we should be good. And Austin Jackson seems to be doing pretty well at that. He's had some good days, he's had some bad days, but so far it seems like the good days have outweighed the bad. The good reps have outweighed the bad reps. And Butch Barry seems to be living up to his reputation. He's definitely been hard-nosed. He's not been shy about screaming at people if he feels it's warranted. But maybe these Dolphins will be more receptive to it. It seems like Austin Jackson seems to be more receptive to it. Maybe he finally got into his head that this could be his last chance to be able to make a career for himself. And as a result, he's actually putting more effort into his training. If that's the case, great, fantastic. We're really happy for him. There seems to be hope for him. And if he can just play well, like show us in the preseason. The preseason is going to be coming up really soon. There's only a few days left before the Miami Dolphins end up playing some actual football that we can look at. Even if it's only going to be backups, it's still Dolphins football, and I'm really excited to see that. Let's see what Mike White can do in a real game situation. Let's see if Skylar Thompson can prove Alfredo Arteaga wrong, because Alf has been very open lately that Skylar Thompson is awful. Like, he's just god-awful. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see something that we're hoping to see. I am not going to hold my breath on that, but we shall see. That's the Austin Jackson situation. Then we talked about Channing Tyndall, and Channing Tyndall is getting an awesome tutor in the form of Navarro Bowman, who was brought in specifically at Vic Fangio's request. He's not there as an official capacity. He's not there to become part of the coaching staff. He's not an assistant linebackers coach. Fangio just said, hey, friend, who I used to coach in San Francisco, come on over and just take a look at my guys and see what you can do to help them. And Navarro Darryl Bowman, for all of his football knowledge, he's been helping Channing Tyndall. He helped David Long Jr. a little bit, and David Long Jr. is already proving to be a fantastic player already, so he doesn't need much help. But in the case of Channing Tyndall, for him, that is an incredible resource, and it looks like it's paying off. Channing Tyndall seems to be much more resourceful. He seems to be much more knowledgeable about the defense that he's playing in. He seems to have better instincts. He's just better all around, and that's incredibly convenient in a way, but also in the sense that, guess what? Chris Greer and Marvin Allen now seem incredibly justified and validated in their decision to draft him. And when they said straight up that, hey, we looked at Eric Ezukanma and Channing Tyndall both as second-year players, so they weren't meant to actually contribute much as rookies. Well, now it looks like both of those decisions are paying off, because both Ezukanma and Channing Tyndall have been playing pretty darn well in training camp this season, which is a lot more than we can say as opposed to last year, where neither of them seemed to really know what they were doing as far as the actual technique. As Nkama was getting by on athleticism, on just pure raw talent, which is great. That's fantastic. We get to see what might be in store for his future. But Wes Welker made it a point to say, I'm not feeling like Ezukanma is ready. The same went for Channing Tyndall. His ability to be a spy, which is pretty much the only thing they tried to use him for last season, that was a miserable experience for everybody involved. So now they are both looking like they're playing well. So now here we are, and we are looking in the same vein as Austin Jackson. Now we're looking at Noah Igbinoghene. Drafted in the same draft class, the third first-round draft pick that the Dolphins had that entire season. Noah Igbinoghene, we all thought, and everybody, I don't think there's a single human being on this planet at this point that actually thought, aside from maybe some of the Dolphins coaching staff and executives themselves, that thought that Noah Igbinoghene could be anything other than a grade A draft bust. And I got to admit, from all the reports that I've been hearing, and Alfredo Arteaga even said it himself, he's actually optimistic now about Noah Igbinoghene's future, which even the 3 yards per carry crew, Alf and CK and Simon, they admitted straight up, you know what? I did not think that he was actually going to be able to play well in this system. Everybody viewed Noah Igbinoghene as the best chance that he had to be good was in a man coverage scheme. But it seems like with all the zone they're playing with Vic Fangio's defense, Noah Igbinoghene seems to be taking to that like a fish to water. It's actually kind of scary what the difference was. It's so weird how projections and the smartest people that I know, some analysts out there, even beyond just the 3 yards per carry people, actual scouts looked at this guy and said, you know what, he's probably not going to be able to play well in this scheme. He's going to play much better in this scheme, and it looked like he was just going to be terrible. And it looks like that the scheme that everybody thought he would not be able to play is actually the thing that's making him good and might actually revitalize his career. I am not looking at Noah Igbinoghene and thinking he's going to suddenly live up to his first-round draft selection, but if he can be a competent cornerback, if he can be good depth, especially at a position where the Dolphins seem to once again be starting to hurt there, what a boon that would be for the Dolphins defense. Because as of right now, Jalen Ramsey is obviously out until, at the very least, November. He seems to be wanting to beat that December deadline. He wants to at least be back by November. And we'll see if he beats it. I know that these athletes are like they're practically superhuman in some ways. But I personally would rather not risk it. That's just me. If Jalen Ramsey feels like he's ready, if the doctors feel he's ready, if the coaching staff says he's ready, fine. But please do not end up torturing yourself and making it so that you won't be available long term. We did just pay you a lot of money after all. So Jalen Ramsey is down. Keon Crossan is hurt, which, I mean, I feel bad for the guy on a human level, but I'm not losing sleep over Keon Crossan not getting snaps as a cornerback. At most, he was a special teams player, and quite frankly, if I'm Miami, I would go ahead and just dump Keon Crossan and keep Justin Bethel around if you really need special teams work. I feel like he's better at it anyway, and as a cornerback, he's better at it. So I personally would just go ahead and let Keon Crossan walk. Then you have Eli Apple, who is having his ups and downs. He seems to be playing pretty well, according to reports. He's making some plays. He's catching everybody's eye. Cam Smith, he's making splashy plays all over the place. He's definitely living up to his second-round selection and the fact that he was projected to be a first-round pick as far as everybody's concerned. But even he's starting to get banged up a little bit. We're still waiting for Nick Needham to come off of the PUP list. We're still waiting to see a lot of other players actually be able to get going. So the fact that we have now Noah Igbinoghene, of all people, actually being a contributing performer, oh my gosh. Now we just have that little last piece of depth that we needed, and hopefully that'll be able to get us over the hump, because the last thing we need is for these Dolphins corners to end up hurting again and all of our star players are not playing the majority of the season. That would be probably the worst thing that can happen. I understand that talent often comes with a price, but I can't remember the last time the Dolphins got this unlucky at the same position 2 years in a row, because we all saw what happened in 2022. We saw Byron Jones go down. He never came back to play for them again, and now it seems like he's officially retired. I don't care what his agent says. He's done. He is done in the NFL. And then you have Nick Needham, who went down, and then Xavier Howard went down for a little bit, and you were left with Kader Kohou, who turned out to be a pleasant surprise, granted, but we were not counting on Kader Kohou. And then Trill Williams went down, and he was actually ahead of Kader Kohou for a long time in training camp. And now we have Noah Igbinoghene, who Noah Igbinoghene last season was just as miserable as I remember. Alfredo Arteaga says, according to advanced metrics, Igbinoghene actually performed, that he was allowing a much lower QB rating. He was allowing a much lower percentage, completion percentage. I'm just watching the eye test, man. I just see that every single time I saw Noah Igbinoghene on the field, somehow he was involved. He was always around a play that had gone wrong for the Dolphins in one form or another. Whether it was his fault or not is irrelevant. It just doesn't seem like it's a coincidence that every time something went wrong and Noah Igbinoghene was on the field, he was somewhere nearby, somehow. We thought his real moments of glory would just be that one game-saving interception against Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers to seal the game. Because Tua Tagovailoa, he had a bad game against Pittsburgh, at least bad for his standards at this point anyway. And it just was not a pretty picture on offense. And Noah Igbinoghene came up big when it counted, and that was going to be his moment of glory. The one thing that he would always look back on and say, this was my greatest moment in the NFL. And he'd be able to hang on to that. And I would give him credit for that. He came up big that one game, but I was ready to call the Igbinoghene experiment a bust, a failure. Just because you have one success does not make you a good player. It just means you had one good moment. But all of a sudden, everything seems to have changed. Whether Igbinoghene truly has had some sort of religious experience, in a manner of speaking, I don't know if how much of that has really had much of an impact. I do know, however, that a lot of people are coming out and talking about Noah Igbinoghene and acting like he's just suddenly a good player. There's a lot of transcripts that I can go ahead and pick up, from Igbinoghene himself. The Miami Dolphins recently had their scrimmage at the Hard Rock Stadium, and some of the things that were happening, Noah Igbinoghene actually picked off Tua Tagovailoa during that scrimmage. And for Tua doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, folks. According to reports, everything has shown that Tua is just getting better and better in this offense. Like, he's able to kind of pick and choose his battles. He knows when to check down. He knows when to go for the big shot. And that was the biggest thing with Tua last season, was that he was always going for the big play, and he would refuse to take the easy yards when they were presented to him. Now it looks like he's being forced to take those easy yards when they come along, because they're not allowing him to take those big plays. He's still taking chances, and sometimes they're paying off. But he's being more willing to go ahead and just take the easy yards, because sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you dink and dunk your way to victory. Ask Tom Brady, who made an entire career out of dinking and dunking his way to victory. But then, of all people, Noah Igbinoghene gets an interception against Tua in the scrimmage. So he was asked, Igbinoghene was, about the interception. Can you take us through the interception you made today? This was his response, and I quote, "It was good, man. I was just running down the sideline, saw the ball in the air, and went up and got it. I need to work on my return skills, though. I think I went the opposite way. I will work on that next time I get one." So that was it. It was just fairly simple. And so what now? Then later on, he was asked, what did you see on the route? He said, quote, "I was just playing my responsibility, and when you do that, and when you focus on your technique, balls start coming your way," and that's what happened. The ball was in the air, I went up and got it. I work on everything in individual drills with cornerbacks, pass game specialist Sam Madison, and our DB coaches. It just worked out for me today. So that's an incredible statement right there. And the reason why is because he's talking about his responsibility, which he did not know what he was doing in the past few seasons, focusing on your technique, which he seemed to be absolutely awful at over the past few seasons, and now all of a sudden he's able to make these plays, because both things that he talked about right there, what was his responsibility, what is his level of technique, those were the two things that Noah Igbinoghene just could not seem to wrap his head around for the entire time that he has been in Miami. There is a reason that players like Justin Bethel and Keon Crossan were getting snaps at cornerback over Igbinoghene. And now all of a sudden he's a good player. Go figure, man. Like, just think about this for a second. Out of nowhere, this kid who has been god awful the entire time that we've seen him, and now he's a good player. It's the weirdest thing in the world how quickly things can change. This was Vic Fangio talking about both Cam Smith and Noah Igbinoghene just on August 4th. Said, quote, "Yeah, I think both of them are making good progress. They're not where we need them to be just yet, but I think both of them are working hard and giving us good progress, and hopefully by game one of them or somebody else will surface and take that position." He added on to that, "We have some good talent in some positions. We need to find guys to be able to execute and play good in all 11 positions, and we're working to get that done. So we're not a finished product by any means, but I do like where we're headed." So even Fangio himself, remember, you have to put this in the context. He was asked about both Cam Smith and Noah Igbinoghene at the same time. We've already heard plenty of reports that Cam Smith is playing exactly the way that a first-round pick should look. And I can call him a first-round pick only because he was projected to be one. The Dolphins were lucky enough to get him in the second round. But either way, you see Cam Smith and you hear Cam Smith's performance in camp and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, the Dolphins actually found a really good corner that they can possibly get to contribute if push comes to shove. So we're hoping that we won't even need that much of Cam Smith, but if we do, and it's looking like we just might if the injuries continue, Cam Smith is turning out to be a stud of a player so far. And you pair him in the same sentence as Noah Igbinoghene, and Vic Fangio says neither of them are where we want them to be. That means that Vic Fangio has such an incredibly high standard for what it is that we're expecting. He doesn't mince words. He said straight up, we're not a finished product. We're looking for guys who can get the job done. There seems to be open competitions all over the defense, and that's perfectly fine. I am not somebody who's going to look at this team and say, oh yeah, you're absolutely going to be the starter because of your reputation or for some other reason. I am not in favor of that. I am not somebody who looks at a person and says, you're the best guy just because I just know you are because I've seen your rating in Madden. I don't play that game. I don't like Madden. Don't ask me about Madden. I'll go on a tangent for a really long time about that. But anyway, so Vic Fangio is looking at Noah Igbinoghene and saying, yes, he's looking a lot better, but he's still not where we want him to be. But maybe the biggest hint that we should have looked at and said that maybe there's still hope for Noah Igbinoghene actually came back in early June. So I'm just going to go ahead and read a quote for you guys here from none other than Sam Madison himself, one of the best corners to ever put on the aqua and orange. So he was asked straight up, specifically about Noah Igbinoghene and how it was a pivotal year for him. Where is he in his development, and where is you're gaining the confidence to put him out on the field? Because again, the reports, the performance, we were seeing them, we were hearing them, that in training camp he looks a lot better. But for the Dolphins to go ahead and be willing to put him out there like that, there had to have been some kind of a sign that we didn't notice yet because we weren't able to watch. So this was Sam Madison back on June 8th talking about Noah Igbinoghene. It's a long quote, so bear with me. Here we go. His mental is there. Just being able to see him on the first day for his meetings and him in there learning the defense and then being able to apply the things on the football field, it's there. The physical is there. He's always in shape. He's always in top tier conditioning. Now he just has to get in that playbook. We've thrown him in there, and different situations, he understands it. So now it's just going out there and doing my job, plus, and Noah, he's gaining the confidence of his teammates. No matter what we say in this building, the most important part is getting your teammates' trust and confidence to be able to go out there and play with him, and he's done that. I think he's grown a lot. It's a totally new system for him. He's learning a lot, just like a lot of these guys. It's going to be up to him to understand the things that Vic Fangio is going to be throwing at him and just going out there and being able to apply it. We know this game is fast. It's quick. So being able to understand, process quickly, and going out there and executing is going to be the most important part for Noah, just because he hasn't had many reps. Everything is fresh. Everything is new. Everybody's getting a fresh new start. It's a really good defense. I ran something similar. You have the opportunity to make a lot of plays, and now you've got to become a playmaker. From day one, we knew that Noah Igbinoghene was a physical specimen. We knew for a fact that he had just an incredibly raw talent that just needed to be tapped into with the right kind of coaching. We thought that Brian Flores would be able to unleash something special in this kid. It didn't work. We thought that maybe after a little while, Josh Boyer would be able to drag something out of him kicking and screaming, and we were wrong about that too. We were hoping with all of our heart and soul that Gerald Alexander would be able to make something of this guy and make it worth it so that he, if nothing else, he was depth, and he wasn't that either. But now all of a sudden, here comes the legendary Vic Fangio with his zone defense, And out of nowhere, against all odds, against all projections, Noah Igbinoghene is a good football player, and he's a playmaker. He sees the ball, he gets the ball, he chases the ball. And that seems to be that. If that's his role in this defense, that's fine by me. Everybody needs to have a role. He's here to be a playmaker. He's here to create turnovers. That is perfectly fine with me. This defense could use some extra turnovers. After last year, they fell extremely short in that regard. I will be the first to admit if I'm wrong about Noah Igbinoghene. I know what Alpha's seen. I've heard what Alpha's seen. He said so over and over again. I personally need to see it for myself. I want to see it in a game. I can't wait to see what happens against the Atlanta Falcons. I want to see what is going to happen in preseason. I think Igbinoghene will get a lot of snaps. I think Austin Jackson will get a lot of snaps. I think Channing Tyndall will get a lot of snaps. So if it continues, if what we're seeing in training camp continues into the preseason, I will be much more confident that these kids actually still have something to offer. So until then, I'm going to hold my breath. I'm going to wait and see what happens. I'm hopeful that all these reports are true and that what we're seeing is not just fool's gold, because if Noah Igbinoghene can somehow suddenly become a good football player, then it will just prove to me that all you really need to get something out of somebody is to just have the right coach. With Mike McDaniel, Tua was the guy that he was able to get the most out of. Tua just needed McDaniel to come in, build up his confidence, and now all of a sudden, Tua could potentially be an elite quarterback in the NFL. I personally think he already is, but not a whole lot of people think like I do. And maybe for Vic Fangio, that's Noah Igbinoghene's savior right there, is just somebody who knows the right defense and is able to truly unlock his full potential. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, if you haven't already done so, go to You Break Wheel Fix if you need to get your wheels fixed up, or if you just want to go ahead and give your ride an upgrade. Reach out to them at 305-748-0112 or online at youbreakwheelfix.com. And of course, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. All you have to do is just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less in their stat, and you could end up winning some big time cash. So go ahead, go to prizepicks.com, promo code 5. That's going to be it for this show. We will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Fins Nation.